Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation. I'd like to call to order the GGF LDC and open the committee meetings and the annual meeting and the monthly meeting all at the same time. First, we'll start with the nominating committee meeting. Our business today begins with the proposed slate of officers and the committee members chosen for the year from March 31st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. They are, our officers are, Chair is myself, Bill Collins, Vice Chair Denise Conklin, Treasurer Dr. John Cordes, Secretary Judy Calogero, CEO Patrick Dowd, CFO Mark Toomey, and Counsel Carol Leas, Esquire. Let's see, those are and for now the committee appointments for, again, the same period, March 31st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. Under nominating committee, we have myself, Bill Collins, the chair, Jane Reed, and Mary Gooden. Under the audit committee, we have Denise Conklin, chair, Bill Collins, Dr. John Cordes, Pat Dowd as non-voting. And then under governance, we have Mary Gooden, chair, Judy Calogero, Tim Larson, and Patrick Dowd, non-voting. Are there any discussions regarding the slate of officers or committee members? If not, do I have a motion to refer this to the proposed slate, refer this proposed slate of officers and committee members to the full board for their consideration and review?
So moved, Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I want to apologize right now for my voice. I had a cold about a week ago, but the voice has not come back yet. So and this may get worse as the conversation goes on. Under other business, do we have any other business before our nominating committee? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting of our nominating committee?
So moved, Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. So we adjourn the nominating committee and we move quickly to the audit committee. I want a medal later for going this fast. So we have the audit committee. We call to order the GGFLDC audit committee. Independent auditor's report for the fiscal year of 2023. The first item on our agenda is a review of this audit report for this fiscal year, for last fiscal year. Today we have Alan Walther, partner with the Bonadio Group, which audited the LDC's finances for the fiscal year. Alan, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I believe yesterday we issued the final reports. I'm not sure if everybody has them. But
Everything got sent out.
Okay,
Well, I don't know if everybody read it.
Right, I was just gonna say.
It got sent out yesterday, yes.
Okay. So there are two reports that we issued. There's a required communications letter, which I'll talk about briefly, and then the audited financial statements, which I'll talk about briefly. I know that you guys have a very lengthy agenda today, so we'll be pretty quick. So the first item of business that I'd like to talk about is the required communications letter, which is a 3-page document. And just talk about a few things here. This can be kind of looked at as a report card of how the audit went, what we do as auditors. So the important information here is on the first page under the section qualitative aspects of accounting practices. The important information here is the third sentence there. No new accounting policies were adopted and the application of existing policies was not changed in 2023. So from an accounting standards standpoint, it was a pretty uneventful year for the LDC. No difficulties encountered in performing the audit. A thank you to Pat and Mark for all their assistance in getting the audit done. And then last thing, there were a couple of adjustments that we made. There's a schedule of the adjustments that we made to correct the financial statements to get them in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So unless there's any questions, I'll move on to the audited financial statements.
Those adjustments are just a matter of categorizing, making sure that they're categorized in the way that you're looking
Putting
for,
things
right?
in the right, it was really, you guys use QuickBooks. QuickBooks is kind of easy to get things in the wrong periods. It's really, everything is recorded, so it wasn't like we found any transactions that were recorded, we're just getting them in the right year, getting them in December 31st, 23. And we've discussed that with Pat and Mark.
Great, thank you.
So let's
It was a
move on.
lot better than last year.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Still a little more improvements to make,
Sure.
but we're, continuous improvement.
Sure.
Is what we look for. So let's talk about the financial statements for the LDC. I'll just keep it short for LDC. There's a lot of G's and F's in there, so it's.
Yeah, you're good, yeah. I've only struggled over it 3 times already this week.
So if you look at that, I don't know, if you have the reports, we'll look at the table of contents and we'll just talk about a few of the things in here. The report is relatively short. Our independent auditors report begins on page 1. Management's discussion and analysis begins on page 4. The financial statements begin on page 7. There's an other required report under government auditing standards on page 15, and then our findings on page 17. It's important to remember, of this 17-page report, the auditor's reports are ours. The rest of the report is the LDC's, right? They're your financial statements. Our role is to audit them. If you don't have time to read the entire document, at least read the management's discussion analysis. It gives a good overview of what happened during the year as comparative versus 2022. So the highlights here that I'll hit upon, I'm not going to go through everything in detail because I know you guys, again, have a long agenda today. The highlights here on page 1, the independent auditor's report. The important information here is in the second paragraph of the opinion section, which I'll paraphrase. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly the financial position of Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation as of December 31st, 2023. That is what we as auditors call an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statements. Okay? I'm going to skip over the management's discussion analysis, the stuff that's in there again. I'll talk about the results of audit. If you do have a chance to read that, at least read that section of the audit. On page 7 is your statement of net position for the year. So as of December 31st, 2023, the LDC had total current assets, which are predominantly cash and receivables, of approximately $559,000. You had total non-current assets of a little bit over $2 million. The vast majority of that is property held for sale, the incubator property, etc. So your total assets are approximately $2.6 million. Current
Don't get
liabilities.
excited, Jeff.
Current liabilities are $180,000. The largest liability, the $143,000, is due to the city of Glens
Correct,
Falls.
yeah.
You have a loan payable is your sole long-term liability. That's the loan to the USDA of $125,000. So the accounting formula is assets minus liabilities, brings you to your total net position of $2.2 million, of which a significant amount of that is tied up in property held for sale. The next page is your statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in that position. Your activities for the year, operating activities. Operating revenue was $106,000, predominantly state aid. Operating expenses, $329,000. You had a loss of $223,000 for the year, added to your net position from the prior year, gets you to your net position of approximately 2.3 at the end of the year. The next financial statement is your statement of cash flows. So that the LDC used $123,000 in operations. You used $7,800 in financing activities. You brought in $521 of interest income. So your net change in cash for the year was a decrease of $130,000. The notes to the financial statements, as I said previously, since there are no new accounting principles, there's no new notes to the financial statements. Since everybody read this very thoroughly last year, we don't need to go through that this year. So the last report that we have is our government auditing standards report on compliance and internal controls. We did have an internal control finding pertaining to the accounting, the reconciliations, which again, we've talked to Pat and we've talked to Mark about that. As I said previously, the issue is not the transactions are not recorded. It's really just getting everything in the proper period. As Pat said, also certainly improved from 2022, and we look for further improvement in 2024. So that is the extent of my comments, unless there's any questions from the committee members.
Let me also just kind of put a coda on what Alan just said. The biggest issue that we really had in our accounting versus the accounting for the audit is actually going through and having to, where we've found is not the right word, where we've recorded items in 21 that should have been recorded in 23 despite the fact that they happened in 21, and that goes back to cash recording versus whatever the other one is.
Accrual.
Right.
There you go.
So it's just a matter of making sure that when we're recording them, that we're recording them in a accrual basis in the year, even though the actual cost happened in 22, 23, or 21.
Right.
21 or 22, sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Timing, it's really timing differences.
Right.
Um,
And still a lot better than last year.
Because we are doing accrual basis, and that's
Yeah.
what we changed our entire way
Right,
of.
so eventually we'll
reporting.
catch up with ourselves and it won't
And it-
show up as prior, having been recorded prior,
And
right?
let me give Mark props, right? Because Mark has done yeoman's work in the last 2 years, sorting through a number of these kind of changes and making sure that what we provide is what we're providing to the best of our ability. So, that's it. That's my say. Yes, Junior?
I have a question about the USDA loan, and that long-term debt. And I know that we have to pay something annually, and it's showing here that this year we'll be paying about $7,800. And then I believe we're showing the maturity date of that to be 2039.
What page are you on, Judy?
Page
16.
14?
Yeah,
14?
page 14.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe we stopped lending that out because we had an issue with one of our loans. and
Correct.
It had gone bad.
Correct.
So do we have any USDA loans outstanding? at
The
this
only one that
time?
we have is,
We have one with Flight
With,
for about $11,000. That is,
and that business is just.
that
closed down.
business is in negotiations to be transferred.
Okay,
So if it's transferred, the loan,
We'll transfer.
present plans are for the loan to either be paid off or transferred itself.
okay. I would just recommend that we take this up as an issue sometime in the next month or
Sure.
two and talk about what we want to do with that loan, because
Yeah, one of the options, and I don't want to.
Well, wait, let me,
Right,
let me,
can
let me
we
interrupt.
discuss
That's
that?
a great conversation, but it's not
Not
part
now.
of this audit.
Right,
So
thank you,
Yes.
right, that's
So-
what I was
But
gonna
that's a
say.
great summary here, and so this is what we should, I
Right.
just want to bring that back up.
Gotcha. It's a good
Us
expression
going-
of where we
yes.
are and
Yes.
where we need to have discussion of where we want to be,
Yes,
right?
so yes.
Anybody else have any questions about the audit itself? Not seeing that. Is there a motion? Let's see, I want to get back to my,
accept and move forward.
yeah, I know, I've got to, just let me find it. Try and get there. I know what it says, I just want, so we reviewed the audit. Thank you, Alan, and if there's no other questions, are there any further discussion? If not, do we have a motion to accept this report and refer it to the full board for their consideration and review?
So moved.
Do we have a
Well,
second?
wait a minute, am I on the audit?
It
committee?
should be somebody on the audit
Yeah,
committee.
it's gotta be somebody
So
on the.
Denise.
So moved.
There you go.
John.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you
Alan.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on from the audit report, we go to internal controls and procedures. The next is a review of our internal controls policy and procedures is sent to you in your packet. Are there any questions about the internal controls or any discussion about this document? Hasn't changed from the previous year? Not hearing any, do we have a motion to accept this policy and procedure assessment and refer it to the full board for their consideration and review? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any other business before the audit committee? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting of our audit committee, the LDC's audit committee?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
Maybe I was.
All right.
However, now, this next one,
Yeah.
that's you.
Yeah,
Okay.
there
So
we go.
Just as a refresher, governance committee is Mary,
Oh, yeah.
Judy, and Tim.
We need to get little tokens
Right,
or
exactly.
something, and this is
Right.
your committee, you
That's
can vote now. All right, under governance committee, I'd like to call the order the GGF LDC, I'll get that straight some point, next week maybe. The first up is our performance, so we're calling to order the governance committee. The first up on our agenda is the performance goals and measurement report. In your packet, you have a copy of the performance measurements documents. Are there any questions about this document? Or any discussion? I don't believe we've had, again, any changes in the calendar year. We just need to review it here in this annual meeting. If not, do we have a motion to accept this report and refer it to the full board for their consideration?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next one is our assessment and effectiveness on internal controls policy. In your packet, you have a copy of the internal controls assessment statement. And are there any questions about this statement? Or the internal controls procedures, are they sufficient and adequate? If there are no conversations or questions, do we have a motion to accept this statement and refer it to the full board for their consideration?
Make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. The next is a review of our existing policies and procedures. It's a review of all the LDC policies and procedures, referring to the list in your packet. Are there any questions about our policies and procedures?
We have a lot of them.
Yes, we do have a lot. There we go. Not a question so much as a statement. Yes, I agree.
It was a great inheritance, is what I have to say.
There are, again, no changes from previous years, and we are not, nor are we recommending any changes at this time. If we do not have any questions or comments, then do we have a motion to accept the policies and procedures and refer them to the full board?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. And the D is any other business. Is there any other business for our governance committee? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting of our governance committee, our committee appointments? Do we have a motion to accept the slate of officers and leadership as well as the committee appointments as approved by our nominating committee?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is our Paris report and our members' attendance report. As we did with the other agency, before us, this is the first meeting, sorry. We changed the order. Yeah, there you go. Pat, you come on.
I screwed up the script,
sorry.
sorry.
On the fly, you got to change this one.
Darn it.
So are there any questions about the Paris report or the attendance policy that's required? If not, any questions or corrections, do we have a motion to accept our Paris report and the members' attendance report as presented?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next is the performance goals and measurements reports and the assessment of effectiveness and internal controls policy and the existing policies and procedures. I assume everybody had a chance to look at the packet. Do we have a motion to accept these reports and forward to the as forwarded by our governance committee just a few moments ago, and as the current policies and procedures? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next is the independent auditor's report for the fiscal year, as just presented a few moments ago in our audit report. Do we have any questions about the audit? Do we have a motion to accept the audit as presented?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is our internal controls and procedures. Do we have a motion to accept our internal controls and procedures report as approved and forwarded by the governance committee?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And finally, we have any other business that may come in front of the LDC this morning? If not, I'd like to adjourn our annual meeting of the GGF LDC.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, so now we move on to our March monthly meeting of the LDC.
Before you get too far into it,
Sure.
we're gonna table resolution E2.
E2.
Yeah, there's some more research that we need to do on that.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's the 36 Elm.
36. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I apologize.
E2.
No, I want that one to pass.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Section C,
Uh-huh.
resolution or item B, right? The facade. The facade
Oh.
exchange. We've
CA2.
Gotcha.
CA2. CA2.
No, CB2, CB1.
CB1, correct.
Hey.
I only have.
I haven't got a B.
For the
I haven't got a B.
record-
I haven't got an A.
Next, on
We
the-
got an addendum.
Updated.
Oh, there was an
Oh.
agenda.
Sorry.
I'm in the wrong email.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry.
There we go. So we're going to pull CB1, a resolution authorizing the amendment for the
Oh, I read
property
that, though,
declarations
yeah. Yeah, I read
of
that before,
the
yeah.
Facade Street grant exchange, okay? We're just going to pull that and I'll skip right over. So
Thanks. John and I are up to date.
You want
I
something
don't-
original
No,
or something?
I can find that.
I don't believe we have a CEO report for
I
this.
don't have one, no.
this
not-
month?
Not this month.
So we'll go straight into our administrative reports and approvals and resolutions. A is the minutes of our meeting held on February 8th, 2024. Are there any corrections or changes we need to the previous minutes? If not, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second? There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Financial report, 2 months ending February 29th. Update from Mark. Hello, Mark. Good morning.
Good morning. All we had was a couple of Fitzgerald bills for 1,024, 2 insurance bills for 2,430, and then 60% of my time for January, 757. It's kind of light because everything was, any other major bills were approved for in 2023 year end for the audit.
Great.
That is it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mark? Yes,
I've got
Judy?
one.
Yeah.
Mark, for the adjustments that Bonadio gave you, did they get incorporated into our current financial report yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So we just got, basically just got.
Yesterday.
Just got
They
them.
arrived
Okay.
yesterday.
I'll put that and basically rerun January, February.
Yeah.
Or, or just update for March.
March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think you have to rerun something that we've already approved, but
Okay.
I would make those adjustments in our next.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll note that when we have that meeting.
We'll do that.
And
meeting
just
note.
for that particular item, we will have to do that for all 4 agencies. So if
Yep.
you have that question come up for the other ones.
It's usual, it's a
it's-
usual
yeah, right,
annual
absolutely.
thing. Yes.
But just so that we're covering it now so that we
Can leave
don't
it alone
necessarily
later.
have to cover it.
Yeah,
Right.
gotcha. Okay.
Excuse me.
No, that's great. So,
So I would move that we accept the financial report as presented with the understanding that the just recent adjustments that were presented to us by our accounting firm, Bonadio, will be reflected in our next monthly report.
Fantastic.
Nicely done.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next would be the independent auditor's report for fiscal year. Now that we've heard it and we're ready to accept it, I believe formally here. Do we have any questions about it? Any thoughts? If not, we have a motion to approve our auditor's financial report for fiscal year 2023.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then under payment of bills, we'll go right back to you, Mark, for payment of bills, please.
Yeah, I have a number of bills for the operating account. The typical monthly insurance, 60% of my time in February. A couple of Fitzgerald bills, workers' comp bill for $220, disability bill for $244, which are annual costs. CEO's wage for the first quarter, and 2 Bonnedale payments, $1,500 and $6,500. And then under DRI, we've got 2 CT mail bills, and we received from the state for admin $6,790 into DRI. So we're ready a check to transfer that DRI money into the LDC operating account.
Right, and so that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, that's it.
And so I might have gotten these out of order because we have the 2 resolutions to do that money transfer and to get the authorization from the board to be able to write that check for insurance when the bill finally comes, as part of the Schedule A, but they're also part of the resolutions that are coming.
Right.
So I would recommend that we pass the 2 resolutions first before we do payment of
That's
bills.
fine.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll just table the payment of bills. We'll go on to resolutions in section E here. Resolution 1 is a resolution to authorize the transfer of unrestricted funds received by the LDC as reimbursement for administrative time from the DRI bank account to the operating bank account. Any questions about the transfer? Do we have a motion? Oh, sorry. Any questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is a resolution authorizing the payment of insurance down payment for the premium on 36 Elm Street LDC property when the renewal documentation comes through in April. Do we have any questions?
I would just make sure that whatever board members are signing that check, that bill's gonna come in soon. We're not gonna see it, but whatever board members are signing it, just make sure that it's $5,000 or less.
Right. Gotcha.
Well, yes, and for the
It's
record,
just the
again,
down
last
payment.
year's was 42 something. So the goal was just to make sure, I don't know
Up
what
to-
whether
up
there's
to
gonna be, it's
5,000,
up to
yeah.
5,000. The resolution says not to exceed 5,000.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
So move to accept the resolution as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Other report.
Back to payment
Back
of
to
bill.
our payment of bills. Now that we've approved those resolutions, do we have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Do we have a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Other reports. Jeff, you have any reports?
Yeah, several things actually. One, you're probably all aware of a piece of good news we received about a week and a half ago. That Bonaccio Development, the city was notified that Bonaccio Development received their $6.6 million in tax credits for the South Street property. This is a project that the city has referred to for the last several years as Market Square Phase 2. This triggers a number of things that are going to happen in fairly short order. The Market Center, as you know, is already moving on. Bonaccio is moving forward with Phase 1, the renovation of the 3 buildings that they're renovating as part of the DRI. We are in the process, and Kara and I have been working with Bonaccio and their lawyers on what do you want to call it? Revising or updating, not really revising. The terms aren't really changing, but the development agreements we had, both with the LDC with respect to the property sales of 36 Elm and 45 South, and the pilot and other tax benefits that the IDA is providing are all a part of that development agreement. I'm hoping that we can have these done in fairly short order. I would guess, and I sort of optimistically would hope that this would necessitate perhaps an April meeting, if not at the normally scheduled time, then maybe later in April. I think they're going to hope and ask that we not wait until May to get this approved. This is also going to have to be approved, at least in part, if not in whole, by the city council. So the reason for, I guess this is wait and hurry up, not hurry up and wait. But the reason, of course, is because they're trying to keep phase one on track with the market center. And so there's still a plan to have this entire phase one, again, 45, 49 South and 36 Elm, more or less complete by the end of the year, which is what we're looking at currently as the end of or the completion of the market center. So we're going to be working with them on that. One of the things that's
Before you
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, before you move on, allow me to just interrupt for a second. So this is great news for us, right? And we were worried that even when this passed and they got this, that geez, it still might not be. So hope you appreciate that we were happy to do this in April and get this updated. We were worried about leaving it either way, and that enthusiasm may not be there because we know the market is not the best. So that is not the case. They are excited, and they actually started approaching us prior to their announcement. They hired a new gentleman. I know that you've spoken to him, and I believe I don't know if you've met with him.
I haven't met with him.
You haven't met with him, but so I have, and we have been meeting with him, and so it's great. I'm feeling very excited. Also would like to ask you if you would be willing to, in about 2 weeks, I don't have a date for you, there's a workshop that I'd want to hold, I'll call it an LDC workshop. We won't pass any resolutions during any meeting, but I want to talk to you about the market square, what our current thinking is, what we're working on and moving forward. And so I would like to get your consensus and buy-in about the vision now. We've been holding off because oh my God, what are we going to do if they don't get this? So I don't know about you, but I'm sleeping better since the announcement. And so we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. And so if you don't mind, I'll have my secretary Bernie send all of you in about 2 weeks some evening. I don't know if we'll go out. We joked before about someplace where wine is served. So
It was not a joke.
right. So I will make sure that it is someplace there that we can talk.
Something monkey. Or
Golden monkey. I think that would be
Yeah, there
great.
you go.
All right. Oh, that's
Something
awesome.
monkey.
Yeah. So please be on the lookout for that, so we can do a workshop. And will you at least nod your head in approval that we should have an April meeting so that we can now update these contracts? There's not any significant changes. If there are, we'll review them at the time. I'm not asking you to approve anything right this moment, but know that we're now going to move forward as quickly as we can.
And I do think it would be helpful also if Bonaccio would share with us when it's ready, and it may not be ready immediately, but an updated development and operating budget for their project. And so I wanna add to something that Jeff said. He said that the project is about $6 million in funding from the state. It's actually much more than that, because part of the award was a $1.5 million federal tax credit. That tax credit is $1.5 million for 10 years.
You mean per year?
Per
Each
year?
and every, per year. And then there's an investor who's investing in that. So the value of that federal tax credit to that project is actually $14,250,000.
Wow.
Okay,
Is that
so-
in addition to the 6.6 million?
Yes.
That's nice.
So what they're showing in their report that you got, you're only seeing the annual amount of the tax credit. And so that's for 10 years. Okay?
That's awesome.
So it's not a true, the way the state reflects it, it's not a true reflection of the value. So this is, I don't know what the total project costs, but it's got to be at least 20
26,
million.
I think,
26 million. Yeah, so so we're adding to South Street, Bonaccio is, with your assistance, a $26 million project.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Right.
why I would like you to see all of it and not just.
No, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, that's
They are working on the updated information. I talked to Libby yesterday, late in the afternoon, and she's looking at that and IDA approvals and things like that, so we can make sure everything is approved properly for the portion that the IDA is involved in.
And she did approach me on that, and she reminded me this is the first time that they've done something as developer. And so there's a lot there that is new to them, and they're probably gonna need some help.
Took my eye out. I do have.
By IDA, you mean Warren County or Glens Falls?
Glens Falls on
Okay, thank
phase
you.
1.
Right, I'm just trying to be clear,
Yes.
who's involved in this development.
All right.
Right.
All right. So,
The other
So-
people that are meeting later.
I just wanted it on the table.
I
that's
also
all.
wanted you to know that so we're gonna have our workshop, we're gonna work on moving all this forward. I appreciate it. We wanna get the updated financials. We also will be probably in the next 4 weeks having a full, I don't know if press conference is the right thing. We wanna reacquaint the community has forgotten about, or maybe even doesn't even know about the details of this. But now that we're all ready to move forward, we're gonna highlight those details moving forward of the entire project.
So the state housing agency, which I have a little bit of familiarity with, will prevent Venatio from doing any kind of media event
Yes.
until they have a construction closing on the project. So it'll be part of the agreement that they're being asked to sign right now.
So it may not be ready.
Right.
Okay.
They will not allow
They
any
have to get
kind
their
of,
funding, their private funding in place and signed before the state will actually commit to the project.
Does that mean that the city, that I should wait? Because, again, I wasn't even thinking about Venatio in this. I was just thinking about reminding everybody of all the details of the working parts. I know.
no,
No?
you're fine doing it, but their specific project doing any kind of
They can't.
They can't participate in
any
publicity.
Let me give you
Ah.
an example, because you look at it every day across the street from you at City Hall, there's a sign up in front of Cronin High Rise that says the state of New York funded this project. Until that sign goes up, we can't do a public event.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
So take a look at that sign. Venatio needs that to go up before we can.
Okay. All right.
That's
Well,
their,
thank
that's
you.
their
So,
rule.
But
Sorry.
we can emphasize market
Square,
whatever,
all-
right,
Yes.
All right.
right, the other one.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And
so
phase one?
But
The renovation, not the new-
They're involved in phase
No,
one.
no.
They're
We're
involved.
talking
Right, but we
about
could do
The
phase
plan
one
is
and
the
market
plan
center.
and how it impacts the rest of the
those,
stuff that
'cause-
we're
Okay,
doing.
so we can do
I
that.
don't
or
know
they
if,
just
I
need to
don't know if
participate
phase
in-
2 is
Well,
in that.
contingent
Yes, they
upon
can, but they
phase
can't be
1.
they can't
I don't know
be-
what the
you can
terms
do
of their,
public
of
meetings,
their,
you can't
of
do
their
something
grant are.
like,
So, they'll know though,
Gotcha.
Venatio will know whether or not they
It
can
can't be
participate or not.
Official
Okay.
groundbreaking event. We're
Okay.
not celebrating.
All right.
Don't
Thank
talk
you for
about
clarifying.
celebrating.
Yeah.
Don't
All
talk
right.
about groundbreaking. Don't,
Gotcha.
because until that signs up, they will be pissed off.
Gotcha. The state will. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, see that? Yeah.
learned a lot this morning.
Now I know why they might be quiet if I invite them. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they've got to sign an agreement.
So that really
Okay.
will help me in defining what this is, because I was struggling anyway to say what it was. I don't want to give people the impression that we just last week decided what we're doing. I wanted to remind everybody of the plans we've been working on since, Ed Bartholomew and Jack Diamond.
So what
started
you
this.
could do is like one of those thermometer things that, you could paint, the 80% line and say,
Here we are.
Right, exactly, right, something like that, without being specific.
Thank you. Great. So we'll talk about that at our workshop. How's that? Great. Thank you. Jeff, go
Okay,
ahead.
so then, as the mayor alluded to, then, I guess the workshop centering around whether and what role the LDC might play going forward.
That's right.
Couple of other things I wanted to mention. One is that we've been in conversation with the mayor. We've approached Jim Siplon from the Warren County EDC about developing a concept plan for Tech Meadows as we start to look hopefully past South Street, and it's at least largely completion sooner or later. We think sooner now. We want to start looking back at some other opportunities that have been sort of tabled for a while, quite frankly. And premier among them is Tech Meadows. One of the difficulties we've had is that it's just a sort of an empty open space, and although it's been for sale, it hasn't really had much to imagine. The ARPA, we reserved, I believe, back when, I think Mayor Hall,
Yeah,
had earmarked some funding for marketing and promotion of Tech Meadows.
Correct.
We're beginning to think that maybe the best way to approach this, at least initially, is to look at some sort of concept plan, or maybe concept plans, so that we can sort of have some imagination about what this could be. I know the mayor's been working with the town of Queensbury to see, what we might be able to do with that property. There are some restrictions on it that are historic. There are some historic restrictions. I don't say they're historic. So looking at the possibilities, we want to see if we can come up with some visualizations. It seems that developers are it's a lot easier for them to sort of imagine what we might be able to do there, what they might be able to do there if they have something to sort of look at. So I think having a plan.
Can I recommend that as part of that, we add, if we can, that we bring in a commercial realtor or two that maybe would be willing to be on a subcommittee or.
We've already engaged a couple local realtors. Actually, they've approached us over the years and said, how can we move this forward? How can we help you move this forward?
Because they have such a better concept, I think, than even EDC would have, or any of us, about what would be likely for something so close to exit 18 in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I have is we were approached recently by a developer, by a local landlord who owns a property on Exchange Street, who wants to look at transferring the facade grant. Well, is looking for disposition of a facade grant that was that the EDC, I'm sorry, the LDC in the DRI had funded. The building is in the process of being sold by the current owner and landlord to the tenant. And so the tenant is interested in looking at, how can is it possible to sort of, transfer the liability of the work that was done. There is a precedent for this in that we did something very similar to Abby's Cookies. When Abby's Cookies was sold to the Flower Child Bakery, right, we simply transferred the remainder of the liability. If you'll recall, these are set up as forgivable loans, essentially. And as the business remains in operation for, I believe it's 5 years, 20% of the loan is forgiven. In this particular case, the property was repaired or updated about 2 years ago. So there's about 3 years remaining on that. To the extent that the tenant is looking to buy the building, that's not only a vindication of the work that was done that enhanced the value of the building, but also would be a simple continuation of the business. So the premise would be, as long as they maintain the business, without certainly tearing the building down or even tearing the facade off, right, then we would forgive that. They would transfer the liability of that to them as well. So that's something that if we end up having to have another meeting, they're in contract right now, so I don't want to drag this out too long. We do have to follow up, as Pat mentioned. There's some research we need to do to follow up with this, but this is something we need to pursue.
Okay.
I would just ask on that you make sure that the applicant is eligible, the person buying the building is eligible and meets the criteria that we did in the initial application. And I'd also be interested in knowing, I don't know if we did this when we did Abby's, but what was the current owner's acquisition of the building, what was the cost, how much did they invest in the building, and what are they selling it for? In effect, what is their benefit if and want to make sure that, what if they did pay that back and we were able to use it and do another building in downtown?
But the terms of the loan are forgivable regardless of, their economic well-being.
No,
And if the
no,
money
they're-
comes- if
they'd
the
have
money
to
comes- I'm
pay it
sorry.
back. They'd have to pay it back.
Well,
No,
and if
this
it
is-
comes back,
Well,
it's got to go
at
back to the
sale.
state.
At
At
sale,
at
right.
sale, yes, at sale.
Right.
Yeah, this one is a little bit different from Abby's, I mean, it's the same concept as that we would be assigning it to the new owner. This particular agreement indicates, the project agreement says that on the sale or transfer
Yeah.
of, then that would triggers the repayment. So in this case, they would be, the request is that it goes to.
Yeah, it doesn't trigger.
It doesn't trigger that due on sale type scenario.
So otherwise that money would come back to us, we might be able to do another project.
Which you can't, because my understanding of it, and Jim, maybe you can confirm this if it's not true, not that I'm saying things it's not true, but anyway, that my understanding is that when that money comes back, that
It goes back.
has to go back to the
It goes
state. We
back.
can't do
It goes
anything else
back.
with it, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah, as part of that grant paperwork, contract.
okay.
That's all.
Great. Any other business, any other discussions? Anybody understand or think there's a need for an executive session? Not hearing any, I would take a vote to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Next
60
meeting
minutes.
was Thursday, May, but we'll do, can we do the same date we would do in April? Whatever that
April.
I guess the
11.
question is whether we have it that quickly in April. I mean, it would be 2 weeks from now almost, wouldn't it?
No, let's do-
April 11th, it would be the next, right?
Yeah,
Is that right?
normal.
Yeah, so that may be a little quick. We'll
Our
have to
normal
double
would
check.
be the 11th.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks from now, maybe? 3-4 weeks? I'll send you an invite. Thank
Yep,
you.
so 3 weeks would be 18.
Yeah,
So
I
I'll send
had-
you 2 invites,
I
one
had
for the
April
meeting and
11.
one for the workshop.
So we do not have a meeting on the 11th,
Correct.
That's correct.
because I'll show up here if it doesn't come off the calendar.
Right.
Okay?
With no materials.
Do you want me to do CDC first or IDA, or do you not care?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No.
All right, so.
Yours choice.
So which one did you choose? So I have to hit the right button.
Me too.
All right, let's go to CDC first.
CDC, okay.
All right. I gotta go to the right button too. Okay. I'm there. Okay. Good morning again, everybody. So I am calling to order the Glens Civic Development Corporation, and this is both our committee meetings, our annual meeting, and I don't think we need a regular monthly meeting unless something comes up. So right now, it's just committee meetings and annual. I did want to say something on behalf of the mayor and myself as we start these, and that, as you can tell, there's been so much work done by our staff on this and our external consultants, everybody that's here and some who are not. This is a lot to do to get ready for these annual meetings, and so I just want to, on behalf of the mayor and myself and all of us here, thank the staff and our council and our accountants for everything that you've done to help us get ready for this. So it's a lot, believe me. So let's, we do have a quorum. All members are here. All staff key advisors are here. I'm not going to name them all. They're all on our list. Our nominating committee and what we've staff have proposed here is no change, that the election of the officers and the leadership remain the same as it was for the last year, and we would be approving that for our new year starting March 31, 2024, going to March 31, 2025. Myself as chair, Mary Gooden as vice, Denise Conklin as treasurer, Dr. John Cordes as secretary, Jeff Flagg as CEO, Mark Toomey as CFO, and Kara Leas as our counsel. And then our committee appointments, you'll see here listed: nominating, audit, and governance. And I won't go back over that or read that, but for the minutes, make sure it's the same as what we're reporting here on the agenda. Any questions or comments on that? Any proposed changes? There being none, is there a motion to accept for the nominating committee, Mayor, Jane, and Mary, if you would move forward with that list?
I'll move the
So Jane Reed is moving, great. A second
Second.
by Mary, and then all in favor.
Aye.
Nominating committee is approved at the,
Audit.
I don't think that we have anything else for the nominating committee, and so I'll ask the members to call for a motion to adjourn that meeting for now.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Oh, sorry.
So nominating committee is closed for the
Right.
day, for now. So, the audit committee, which is Denise and Mayor Collins and Dr. John, I'm just gonna keep talking and run this. The independent auditors report, and our auditor is here, and everyone's had a copy of that, I think, for at least a day or two. I know it's not that involved, so, thank you, ma'am.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jean.
Good morning. Good to see everyone. I don't know that I met Denise last year, but I'm Jean Lappert. And I'm here on behalf of Lutz, Selig, and Zaranda. Mary McCrell was the partner in charge of the audit. I work for Anderson Advisory, and I did the financial statement. So I did the non-attest part, which is what we call it, and she did the attest part of the audit, so we worked together. First, I want to thank Mark, who was very helpful, and Pat for for working with us and with.
I think it's Jeff for this. I'm urban renewal.
Jeff. Sorry. I just wrote Pat. I'm marking each agency. I wrote the wrong name. All right. Yes, I know you're.
I don't mind getting thanked ever, right? So don't worry about it.
Well, thank you.
If he was smart, he would have just said, "You're welcome."
Peter, can we edit that part in? Okay, anyway, just want to, it's going to be a lot of ditto to what was said earlier. But we didn't encounter any difficulties in the audit. There were some minor adjustments that were provided to Jeff and to Mark, which we discussed, and primarily they had to do with, and they're not significant, and they primarily have to do with the interrelationship between the different agencies and expenses being paid on behalf of the different agencies. So they're minor amounts, but since the numbers are so small, everything's needs to get recorded, basically. So that's kind of where we ended up on that. So I can bring your attention same to the first letter, which basically says that the audit went really well. Okay, that's a required communication by the auditors. As is the case with the others, we issued an opinion where we say the financial statements referred to above present fairly. That is the highest standard, that all the financial statements are presented fairly. And then what I would do is bring your attention to the management discussion, which is a required part of financial statements, which just highlights everything. Now, as you know, with CDC, there isn't a lot going on other than it exists. You have accounting, you have monthly meetings, and you have to pay auditors' fees.
That's basically it.
Don't forget that part.
Yes. And they have to get recorded, and since it doesn't have cash, there's money going back and forth from the IDA. And so I'll just bring to your attention that the only thing that's really different, you didn't have any new accounting policies, your cash went down by $352, and basically all the expenses were either legal fees or accounting fees, and that's pretty much it. The only thing we did do then is, if I take you to the statement of net position, you can see there's only $151 in cash, and there was a liability booked for expenses paid on behalf of the CDC by the LDC. Okay, and beyond that, that's pretty much it. if I take you to the statement of revenue, the revenue is just the grant or the contribution that comes from the city to pay the bills, so that was $7,500. The operating expenses are, the legal fees, the accounting and auditing fees, and then the change in that position really just comes from that accrual. Again, putting things in the right period, accruing it into the right period for last year. The cash flows, again, is just the money that came in from the city and the money that went out for contractual expenses. And then if you go through the notes, all of those are required disclosures. They look the same as they did last year. I don't think there's anything much more to talk to about that. We do disclose that the industrial revenue bond that's held by the library did get paid, they're paying down their part, and we have to disclose every year that happens and what the balance is, okay? And then there's a disclosure about the related party transactions. The last piece, which, we were able to, do a report on your internal controls. Internal controls are all, in good shape, so. Anything else? Any questions?
I do want to raise a point about, it has nothing to do with the audit, but I do want to raise a point afterwards about the Crandall Library, and it's, how long that's going to be outstanding. But I'll wait and do that. But
Okay.
I don't have any questions about the audit. Do any of the members?
Well, I can actually add to that because it is part of the footnotes. But
Yeah.
so the last payment is made in 2037. So there's a schedule of payments. So I didn't know if it was the specifics.
Yeah.
You know that part.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, yes. And so I will,
Okay.
I'll make the point
Okay,
now.
talk about
And
it.
so that's, if it costs us about $10,000 a year to operate the CDC, which has limited business because there's only so many entities in this community that can benefit from it, that's $130,000 up until 2037 that the city is going to have to assume the cost of because we don't have any revenue coming in. And so I wonder if it's worth our time and effort to take a look at, is there a way for us to transfer this bond issuance over to the IDA for monitoring purposes, or is that not even?
You
Can't
can't.
do that.
Can't
That's
do that.
the whole reason we have the CDC
Yeah.
is that, the hospital and the library in our town cannot benefit from the industrial development agency.
Right.
So we had to have a way
Right.
to
They don't
benefit
have the
them
legislation
bonding
that
wise.
authorizes them.
So a CDC allows that possibility, but
And I was on the board with you guys. We were
Yeah.
here when this happened because the state legislature passed a law that the IDH used to be able to do that, and then they took that away.
correct.
And so that's when we had to form the CDC,
Correct.
and we did that. Okay. Well, the only other thing then is to look at options for other business to come in, and I would ask staff to put together a list of any and all businesses in the city of Glens Falls that could potentially benefit from bond financing that we could do, and see if there's a market out there for us to be doing any other transactions.
It's so limited
It's
as to what a
probably-
civic development corporation can
Do.
bond. So,
Let's have a list so we know who. I know it's obviously the hospital and the library, but
And
are
they
there
went
any
to
others?
just commercial financing.
right, they skipped us, the hospital did.
They
Well,
paid off the
they
bond.
paid
Right,
off.
right, and then
Financed with a
with
traditional
somebody else,
lender.
it could do
Well-
better in the time frame. Not
And-
anymore,
And
maybe.
they did that at the time that they were bought out by
Albany Med.
Med.
Yep.
And also the interest rates were at a point
Yep.
where they were more favorable
Than bonds,
than
absolutely.
bonds. And so, yes.
And, and also, we did have a meeting with the hospital, who is looking at doing another small expansion, and they are not looking for help from the CDC to do so.
We're just not
So,
cheap money.
so maybe the
Anymore.
best option is for myself or some of the staff to get a hold of the, who oversees this again? What's the?
ABO.
The ABO, and ask for some sort of relief in something that, you know, we can just lay out exactly what we just said, right? This will cost us over the life of the last bond we have, $130,000, basically to audit books that aren't changing. So is there
So-
any way maybe they can?
And maybe we shouldn't be holding Jean up for this, but maybe the discussion really should be with our state representatives
Yeah.
for them to lobby for relief for small cities everywhere that must be in the same position we are.
Sure.
You know,
For,
It's worth it. It's
Let
worth
it be
asking.
noted, though, that the city of
relief from
Glens over the
audit
next 10 years
expenses,
or
you know,
so is
or whatever,
contributing
if there's been no activity.
$130,000 to the
maybe-
upkeep of the library.
maybe
That we don't
with
get
you,
credit
If you
for.
can't change it, then you'd have to,
Yep.
in the future contracts, have them
right,
pay
yeah,
our
that's what
fees.
Jeff was
Well,
saying.
we should keep one thing in mind is that, you know, through our due diligence, we were able to save some of that money by having a more efficient and less costly auditor.
Yeah.
You bet.
There we go.
For which we appreciate you, we very much appreciate you, Jean.
Very good.
On the other hand, that is a little bit offset. One of the points I just want to make is that Gene and I had talked about this adjusting entry. Essentially, because the CDC has a function, you can't really have zero for the cost of management and accounting and legal purposes. So one of the things we did have to do that somewhat offsets the savings of our more efficient audit is there has to be some sort of accounting of some funding that's sort of calved off from, in this case, the IDA, from the time spent on the IDA to time spent for the CDC. So that offsets a little bit. So there are some costs there as well. So your point is well taken about the cost. It's just, you know, it may not be quite as much as you're suggesting.
You know, and we had this
At least not
discussion
present value.
as to whether or not to shut the thing down, but you'd never get it again.
Right.
You'll never
No.
get, you know,
And
that-
Not in-
it's a
not in
great
the state
resource.
environment
So if
that
there's
we're
some
in, no,
sort of relief
absolutely
that
not.
can be granted, then we should ask, and we'll see, find out.
but anyway,
Okay.
not
And
good.
So-
it's worth advising the common council too, because we probably have to go back to the common council and ask for more money, and so it's worth them understanding this again.
Agreed. Yep. So those are two
You're in
things.
the lead on
Okay.
this, please. You need help from me.
Sure, we'll put her out on the spot on that. Mary will bring that right up.
Right up.
It's great. So Pat, will you make a
Good luck
note,
with that.
Pat, will you make a note to follow up on those two things? One is the council's recognition, and the other is our lobbying of our state officials.
We'll go right back to you.
Yep.
All right.
So any other questions? Sorry.
It's okay. No, no.
Any other questions? We have to approve the audit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions for Jean or for staff or?
Battling?
Okay, all right. Let me go back to my agenda. So, independent auditor's report has been made, and we're gonna have that in the record. We'll have some follow-up there, but,
We do. She's trying to find her place in her agenda again. Because
All right.
we're all scrolling like
so
crazy.
Denise, as chair of audit, you good with this?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll call for a vote to accept the auditor's report as presented with no changes.
So moved. A second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Gotta write this.
Oh.
And then everyone's got the assessment of the effectiveness of our internal controls policies and procedures. And does anyone have any questions about that? It basically goes over our intent, it defines our primary functions, talks about some of the risks that we were just talking about. Those internal control procedures are in place. We're following the public authority laws, and we're doing all of the reporting on the Paris system, as well as getting the audit done. So we're in pretty good compliance there. And I just call for a vote to accept that policies and procedures report as presented.
Motion to accept?
A second,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. And then, so for the governance, so I will call for the audit committee to adjourn unless there's some other business.
So moved.
So moved. A
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Audit committee is closed out for the time being. Governance committee, although let me just say too, that at some point maybe we might wanna call audit committee back together and talk about some of these issues and see if there's some, because it does relate to the cost of the audit. And the city's contribution to that. I think, again, making certain that the common council is aware of that cost. So the governance committee, there's 3 different documents that are impacted by this, so I'm opening up the governance committee, and our members are Mary Gooden, myself, and Tim Larson. And we have the performance goals and measurements report, the assessment of the effectiveness of our internal controls policy, and then again our existing policies and procedures. And we're not proposing any changes in that from last year unless the members have something that you want to add. Those documents are all attached. There being none, is there a motion to approve by the committee these 3 documents and reports?
So moved.
A second? I'll make the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any other business to come before governance? There being none, is there a motion to close out the governance committee for today?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we're gonna go right to the annual meeting. Again, all of our members are here. We have the election of officers and leadership and the committee appointments that our committee's just approved. Is there a motion to do the election of officers and leadership and the committee appointments as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're gonna do the auditor's report separate, but the mission statement and performance measurements, the assessment of the effectiveness of internal controls policy and our existing policies and procedures. No changes are being presented for those. The committees have already approved these. Is there a motion by the annual meeting, by the board for the annual meeting to approve the same?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. The policies and the performance measurements and all those reports are finalized and approved and ready to be presented on the Paris reporting system. The independent auditors report, again, we just went through that with Jean, and we had a couple of different comments, but in terms of reporting or approving the report itself as presented, are there any changes to that? There being none, is there a motion to approve the auditor's report for fiscal year 2023 as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, the auditor report for the CDC is approved. Administrative reports. So the Paris report, everyone's got a copy of this. It covers all 4 agencies that are meeting here today. This is what staff are going to put up online today and tomorrow to get that done before the end of the week. You know, we can approve it if it's fine, but it's really more of a report to all of us that what's going to be reported to the state. And most of this is stuff that you guys that we've already approved, but we'll do that. The members' attendance report is there. Again, that gets reported up on our Paris report. We don't need to approve it, but for your information, that is there. We did have a meeting in February, and while we're not doing a monthly meeting today, I will ask you to take a look, if you haven't already, to those minutes from the February 8th meeting and approve it so that they also can be posted. And then there is a financial report for 2 months ending February 29th, 2024. And that really allows us, if we needed to pay any bills, to have that done. As we mentioned earlier under the other meeting for the LDC, there will be some adjustments to that report that will be made, and they'll be reflected in the next monthly financial report. And so for now, for administrative reports, I'm going to call for a vote to approve the 4 administrative reports.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
They are approved. Thank you all. Is there any other business to come before the CDC before we close? What?
The mayor was gone, do you have a default abstention?
Absent. It's not an abstention, he's absent.
Oh, there you go.
Right, we have a quorum and we, in his absence, and we had enough votes, so.
Step down to the members.
Right, the minutes will reflect.
That happens when we all have empty cups of coffee.
Right, exactly.
Now the minutes reflect.
I know I don't have coffee.
I know.
Well, I'd offer you some, but it's gone, so.
So there's no other business at this time. If we do need to meet, we would meet in May. And so we'll report that as needed. Again, I want to thank the staff for getting this done, and I know the next 2 days are going to be kind of busy for you guys as you get all of this stuff up on Paris. And so if you need anything from any of us, please let us know. But otherwise, call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
So I think just for the members' benefit, that maybe next year when we develop these, that we ought to, as the committees are noted, that we ought to have the members assigned or listed there, so that way it's clear each time, because
Yes.
a bunch of you are on different committees for each one of the organizations, and the conversation today just made me think that that's probably a good idea.
Okay, so I'm calling to order the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency, and we're first going to do committee meetings, then we'll go to our annual meeting, and then we do have a regular monthly meeting. And so all members are here. We have a full quorum. Our key staff are here and will be listed, same as before. Our nominating committee, staff are proposing no changes from the current year, and for the election of officers as listed on your agenda to be for March 31, 2024 to March 31, 2025. So, Mayor Collins, you are chair of that nominating committee. Do you want to call for a vote on that as well as the committee appointments?
Sure. Make a motion to approve the appointments in the committees.
Second?
Jamie.
All in favor?
Aye.
You guys are it. All right, so that is approved. Mayor, we have no other business to come before the nominating committee at this time unless you have something.
No.
Call for the nominating committee to be closed.
Make a motion?
Second.
All in
All in favor?
I'll
There we
agree.
go. We agree.
So the audit committee is Denise, Bill Collins, Dr. John Cordes. The independent auditor report is here. And
Gene, back up.
Gene? So IDA time.
Okay.
All right.
So now I will thank Jeff.
Are you sure?
I wrote it down. And I probably talked to him more than Jack. Okay, again, so we're here on behalf of the Glens Falls IDA. We have the initial letter, which just says that we encountered no difficulties in dealing with management, performing and completing our audit, so thank you. It went very smoothly. We had some minor adjustments that had to be made. Again, very, similar to the LDC. It was for expenses paid by IDA on behalf of Urban Renewal and CDC. So they were minor. I presented the adjustments to Mark and discussed them with Jeff. So that's all. And again, they were not anything that we had any concern about. Again, I'll direct you to the first statement, which is the management's discussion and analysis, which does give you pretty much a summary of what's in the financial statement. So that's kind of an easy way to read it. It is a required disclosure. Excuse me. Before I get to that, the independent auditor's report, again states that in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the Glens Falls IDA as of December 31, 2023. So again, that's the highest level of assurance that we can give. So this year, some of the things just to point out, if you look at your first, you see the total assets went down. That's primarily because there wasn't any revenue this year. There weren't any fees received by the IDA, and the IDA has primarily expenses related to legal fees, accounting, and the payroll for accounting and the CEO expense. The liabilities are primarily, there are just some accounts payable and amounts that are due to the LDC, again, because the LDC paid bills on behalf of the IDA. So the most significant thing, I'm sorry, I'm also losing my voice now this morning. Must be the weather. The most significant thing, again, is that that there wasn't any, if you look at the cash flow, there weren't any fees this year. We have the expenses as expected, and that there are amounts going back and forth between the related entities. So they did get booked onto the statement in that position. So there's a due from the CDC and there's a due from Urban Renewal. The other thing, just in terms of a classification, is this year the IDA took some of its excess cash and put it into CDs, and so that's being classified as a short-term investment. So anything over 3 months has to get classified as a short-term investment, whereas in the past everything was in cash. Okay, so, and I think other than that, again, you didn't have any changes in accounting policies, you didn't have any new projects this year. So pretty much the notes read as they have in the past, other than the related party transactions. The last thing is the internal controls, and I just want to say that part of what we're able to do, because we were auditing all three entities, is the internal controls are pretty much the same. You have the same staff, you have the same accounting person doing it in the same system. So we're able to be more efficient with our work on evaluating internal controls, and we're able to report that we didn't identify any deficiencies in the internal controls, and that would be the case for all of them. So, okay, any other questions?
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You can't leave yet, we have one more.
Oh, yeah, can I just say ditto?
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Thank
To
you.
save everyone time.
Wow, we
It's
do
nice.
really want to thank you though for
Yes.
stepping in and helping us this year. It's been great. And where you used to do one, you're now doing three. It's a lot, I know. Any
Speed
comments or questions by the members? Being none, call for a motion to approve the audit report as presented by the committee.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And then there's the list of the internal controls and procedures. Again, we're not proposing any changes, but that's here in a report format, and will be reported on Paris, so I ask that the members approve that too as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Catching.
Yeah. And then for the audit committee, I think that we can close that out unless you have anything more. We'll close that out for the time being at least.
Motion to close?
Close.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So the governance committee is now opened, and there are 3 reports. Everyone's got copies of those. It's the performance goals and measurements report, the assessment of the effectiveness of our internal controls policy, and the listing and explanation of all of our existing policies and procedures. No change to policies and procedures at that time. In terms of the assessment of what we've accomplished over this past year are included in there. All of that, once we approve, will be reported by staff in Paris. And there is the listing of the performance agreements, the performance goals that we achieved in 2023. And there was one lease termination and pilot agreement termination for 7787 Warren Street. Just want to make sure everyone saw that and listed that. And then, of course, we've talked at length earlier today about the Venaccio development, formerly called Spring City Development, and what's going on with that project, and the support that we provided this past year was considerable. Construction start on Market Center, city staff procuring a grant for brownfield properties, and the Restore New York grants made on Maple Street. So altogether, I think a pretty successful 2023. And again, want to thank staff for all of that, helping to make that happen. Are there any changes or questions or additions that members would like for the governance committee reports?
Make a motion to accept?
Make a motion to accept all 3, A, B, and C as listed. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any nays or abstentions? There being none, the governance committee reports are hereby approved. There being no more business to come before the governance committee, I call for it to be closed for the time being until needed. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Meeting is closed. So I'm going to open the annual meeting, and all members are present, and we have the election of officers and the committee appointments already approved by our committees. Is there a motion to accept these for the annual meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, the officers and committee appointments will start almost immediately. So the Paris report is what the staff will be putting up online. It's basically doesn't need an official approval, but we'll do it anyways. But that's basically stuff that we've approved and accomplishments that we've made throughout the year. And then there's the member attendance report, which again, while officially doesn't need our approval, it's for our records of what our attendance was this past year. And then we have the mission statement and performance measurements, which have been approved by committee. And then there's the assessment of the effectiveness of internal controls policy, and the listing of all our existing policies and procedures. Again, approved by committee. And so I'm going to ask the members if there are any changes to please let me know now. If not, I'll call for approval of the Paris report, the attendance report, the mission statement and performance measurements, assessment of the effectiveness of internal controls policy, and our listing of existing policies and procedures with no changes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There be no abstentions or nays, then these reports listed here on our annual meeting agenda as C, D, E, F, and G are approved. We've already gone over the independent auditor report for 2023, and it's been approved by committee. Do the other members have any questions or changes, comments? There being none, is there a motion to approve the independent auditor's report for fiscal year 2023 as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There being no nays or abstentions, the auditor report is approved, and please get that set up on Paris right away. The internal controls and procedures is attached here for everyone to review. Any questions or changes to that? There being none, this will also be reported on Paris. Is there a motion to approve the internal controls
So moved.
and for the statement that will be submitted? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
In terms of, Form ST62, do we have a copy of that?
It's here. I think I forwarded that to you, didn't I, Kara? That was-
Yeah, so that's the form that we're required to submit to Tax and Finance to identify whether or not the IDA issued any sales tax exemptions for fiscal year ending 2023, and if we undertook any recapture actions during 2023. So the answer to both of those questions were no. We didn't issue any new sales tax exemptions in 2023. Nothing was active at that time because we actually never closed on the Spring City development. So next year when we close on that, then there'll be something to report for this year. So that form just basically says no sales tax exemptions, no recapture. It just needs to be filed with the state.
So we didn't hand this out to the members, but a copy of it is right here. It's as Kara just stated. So anyone wants to see it, here's the copy. I'm going to ask for our approval, and we'll just pass that around and make sure everyone has seen a copy. And then, is there a motion to approve
So moved.
the report as presented?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
This is authority for you to sign the form.
It's authority for
That's
me to
what-
sign the form as presented. Okay. Is there any other business to come before the annual meeting? If none, is there a motion to close out the annual meeting?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Annual meeting is closed. Let's jump right to the March 2024 monthly meeting. I have no report. Jeff, do you want anything?
Just a couple of quick things that, we were talking about, that the Bonaccio project, which was initially agreed on in 2022, has been deferred. We will be pursuing that and closing that this year. We've also got, as they've been lingering for quite a while, at least 4 different projects. Most of them near downtown development projects that have approached the IDA. Many of them have been held up by various financial constraints, but I expect at least 1 or 2 of them, including the Restore project we were working on. Previously, we're also looking at a couple of applications, for a couple of opportunities for an application for Restore 8, which just came out about a month ago and will be due in May. So we're talking to a couple of different developers about some projects downtown. Once we have an application submitted, which I'll know by the next meeting, I can share a little bit more with you on that and opportunities that the IDA may have to support those.
Besides pilot agreements, what else can the IDA help out?
Mortgage tax abatements, sales tax rebates, and then potentially bond issuance.
Thank you. I knew that.
You were testing me.
Yeah, I knew that. I was testing you. That's right. Yeah.
Any questions for Jeff? Thank you for that, Jeff.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
So administrative reports, we have the minutes from February 8th. Is there
So move.
a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Financial report for 2 months ending February 28th, 2024. Mark, anything for the report?
Just,
Not the bills.
my time, $505. Everything else was accrued for in December, and any adjustments, like we talked about, will be made in March, based on the audit. That's it.
Okay. I'm gonna do these all at once. Independent auditors report, we've already gone through that and discussed that. Unless there's any further questions, I'm not gonna call for a separate vote on that. Payment of bills, Schedule A, $2 million.
Yeah, right.
All right, $2,923.20. They're all listed here in your Schedule A. Any changes, Mark, or any?
That's it.
That's it? Is there a motion to move the financial report for February, the independent auditor's report, which we've already approved, and the payment of bills?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions, any nays? If none, carried. All these administrative reports have now been approved. Anything else, Jeff?
Nope.
We've already kind of talked about these project reports. I don't think that there's any resolutions needed at this time.
No.
Any further questions for Jeff on any of these projects? Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? There's no need for an executive session. I'll call for an adjournment, and we will meet on May 29th unless it's determined that an April meeting is needed. Is there a motion to adjourn?
We'll probably need to come back to the IDA to revisit the approval for Spring City Development because
Right.
the dates in that resolution have expired, et cetera, so they're gonna come back and look.
Right, so that'll happen in
So
April.
most likely we'll have an April meeting.
LEC and IDA
Yep.
for this project.
Okay, very good.
I have one more
You
thing.
normally schedule.
You can't stay.
I'm already late.
Are you on our
I
committee?
don't schedule.
I am on the
meetings,
committee, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, you're on the property committee.
But let me know
Now
if you
for,
need anything.
no, now
You
for.
you haven't got actions
You
for
have-
him.
We don't.
Right.
It's not
No.
you.
Motion, next year we start a half hour earlier.
Yeah, no.
Motion to close out the IDA monthly meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Somebody
Jane
second.
Reed, Jane Reed second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are closed. Okay.
Thank you.
So we
Thank
do
you,
have
goodbye.
the
Don't forget your
urban
cookies.
renewal. I'm gonna turn it back to you, Mayor, for
Sure.
urban renewal.
Great. Let's see, it's still March 3rd, March 28th, 2024. Good morning, not good afternoon. We will open the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency. We're gonna call them, we're gonna call the meeting to order for determination of quorum of members. We've got that, we know we're at quorum. We're gonna welcome our staff again. Committee meetings. We need to call the Glens Falls Urban Renewal open. We're going to open all the committee meetings and the annual meeting and the monthly meeting all at the same time right now. We'll start with the Governance and Audit Committee. You have your independent audit report, and we'll have Jean come in and talk to us, please.
Okay, can I take a seat?
Please.
Join you at the table. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You get a seat now.
Yeah, there you go. Moving up.
Be careful what you wish for.
I am sitting next to
Duly noted. What's your email again? Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, you do have all my contact information.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, now we're here on behalf of the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency to deliver the audited financial statements. Again, there's a required communication in the beginning which says that you have not changed any accounting policies during the year 2023 and that we encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management, performing, and completing the audit. So again, I want to thank Pat and Mark for their assistance in the audit and that all things considered, it was all done a little on the late side, but we got through it all without any problems. Again, there were some minor adjustments that were proposed and sent to Mark and Pat, which will, again, for related party transactions and allocations of some expenses. So that's good, and especially this year, there is a new CFO and a new CEO. So as much as urban renewal doesn't have a lot of activity, there was also a new accounting system. Okay, it was manual, it was pen and paper or pencil and paper last year, and was on QuickBooks this year. So
It was done on a slate with chalk.
Yeah.
No offense intended to anyone.
But accurate nonetheless.
Correct.
So, but those are all changes that auditors and accountants pay attention to, change in staff and change in accounting systems. So, and that all went well. And we did have one adjustment because of the way things get reflected in QuickBooks, and but it didn't affect the statements. So, okay, based on that, the independent auditor's report again says that the financial statements are presented fairly and in all material respects, and again, that's the highest level of assurance that an auditor can give on financial statements. And I'll bring your attention again to the management discussion, which is the highlights for the year. And there were a couple of significant things. First of all, the assets were decreased, and basically that was for the payment of expenses. The agency didn't accept any parcels and didn't have any sales, so it didn't have any revenue, just had expenses. But the biggest change was the change in the agency's net position, which was due to the extinguishment of the debt due to the city of Glens Falls in the amount of $146,813. So that changed the net position from a negative $135,000 to a positive $6,206. If you take a look at the statement of net position, now it's just the cash, the amount due to the IDA, and then the net position. The activities, again, there was no revenue, just there were the expenses, the same as the other agencies, the legal fees, auditing and accounting, and the payroll expenses. And I think, and then again, we have the notes. Again, there weren't any changes in accounting policies, so the notes are all similar to the previous years, except that we also had to, separately disclose that that there was the obligation to the city of Glens Falls was extinguished during the year. Okay, and then that was just posted directly to the net position. Okay, and then the last thing, again, is the internal controls, and we did not find any, there were no findings or deficiencies in the internal controls, and the report, states that. So, other than that, if you guys have any questions, this all sounds like ditto, ditto, ditto.
Right. But for once, we got rid of an obligation.
Thanks to the
Look at
mayor
that.
and the common council.
Might go down as one of my accomplishments for this. Any other questions, thoughts? Thank you, Gene.
Okay,
Yes, thanks.
all right, good.
So, if there are no further discussions, can we accept this report and refer it to the full board in just a few moments?
Those of you, yes, what the
sorry,
heck?
who's on
That's
the
all
team?
right.
Second? All in favor? I'm absolutely in favor.
Right.
All right, let's see, so, let's see, the audit report, and then the review of the so we have existing proposed updates to internal controls policies. There are no changes in these documents, am I right, Pat?
No, there is one update. The changeover of urban renewal and the leadership structure previously versus what it is now had some outdated information in the FOIL policy, the public access to records policy. So that's reflected here, and at some point this year, staff is going to propose some changes to bylaws that better reflect how it's,
How we
how everything's
operate.
set up now. Right, yeah.
We
So-
don't have a recording secretary and a,
Correct.
all those things that.
Correct. So the change here is literally, again, it's minor changes. It says that we're removing the fax, that people can contact us by fax. I don't know that anybody even does that anymore.
Actually, yes,
Yes,
and
they
do not
do.
remove that. Right.
Oh, don't remove it.
Do not remove that.
Okay.
Because the internet is considered to be so, unless you're going to do all communications encrypted, faxes are now our go-to for anything that
Is
has
that
to do.
right?
Yeah,
Oh, my
it's
apologies then.
Way
I-
safer.
I did not realize that.
So we're back to paper, and since we're a paper industry around here, that's good stuff.
We're supporting that.
Right, so I'm not saying, I'm not requiring us to communicate by fax, but I'm saying I would not eliminate it from our practices and procedures.
Okay, so
I would
then
leave it as an
in-
option.
In section 3 of that document, it says, either personally or any business day of the office, the records access officer, you can access them by mail. It says by mail or fax. So we'll leave
Leave
that
it.
in.
Mail,
Do you have a fax machine as well?
electronic
I was gonna say,
mail, electronic communication, or fax.
Do
Okay.
you have a fax machine?
There is one in the
There's always one
city
somewhere.
clerk's office,
Right.
yeah.
It's a physical machine?
Yeah, it's a physical
Yeah.
machine. Yep.
Mine's still a physical, I actually went back to a physical.
We still have heat thermal paper?
Yeah, right, yeah, not that.
Okay.
But anyway,
So then
just
the
saying.
motion is,
You have the motion doesn't change, you're gonna make those changes
right,
back.
with those,
With that slight change, it's
Those
funny that
other
you would bring
updates.
that one up.
Yeah.
So we have mission statements, performance goals, organizational chart, investment policy, guidelines, procurement policy, disposition of property guidelines, code of ethics, compensation reimbursement and attendance policy, defense and indemnification policy, public access to records policy, and proposed update, the travel policy, and whistleblower policy. Are there any questions about these policies, procedures? If not, we have a motion to accept them with the one change that we just reviewed.
So moved.
Say, we should be looking.
We have- What's that?
The travel from City Hall to here, we need to be.
Yes, I need to be reimbursed for that, I really do. Oh, there you go.
does walking
I
count?
was gonna say,
We have a motion, do we have a second? Do we have a second?
sorry.
You know, that's all right.
Just-
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Judy seconded.
Yeah,
I
thank
Right,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Steps.
Thank you, then it passes. Next two items refer, our requirement for the Urban Renewal Agency needs to identify both the locations of our funds and the official news organizations where notices must be published, the nomination of depository of general operating funds for urban renewal, and the appointment of Urban Renewal's official newspaper. Depository of operation of funds is Glens Falls National Bank, and the agency's official newspaper is the Post-Star.
The
It's the Post-Star. Yep. Do we have I don't know if we need a motion.
We do.
Let's see.
Yep.
I'll
It
make
comes
a
at the
motion
end.
To approve that.
Thank you.
It comes at the end.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So next we'll go to our slate of officers and committee members chosen for the year for March, yes, right?
The
March
whole year.
31st, right?
Yeah, March 31st.
You don't get off just because March is
Yeah.
ending, no.
Yeah.
You're stuck.
Let's see, and what I noticed here, I'd like to actually ask to make a change. I'd like to ask anybody else, maybe the vice chair, Denise, can I ask you to vacate that position? Can I ask Tim Larson to fill that? Because Tim was originally in the Urban Renewal Agency, and I want to make sure he's more of an officer in this particular one. He has the experience. Is that okay? You won't take offense to that? You will
I'm good.
run free? Sure. That's it. Great. And Tim, you okay with that appointment? Great. So let the record show that the chair will be myself, the vice chair will be Tim, treasurer will be Dr. John Cordes, secretary Judy Calogero,
Denise
CEO
could be
Pat
secretary.
Dowd, Yeah, there you go. No, don't run now. We're not letting anybody else off the hook. And then CFO is Mark Toomey and council is still Kara. Thank you. And then the appointment committees are as listed below. Governance and audits is myself, Judy, and Tim. Pat Dowd is still non-voting. And then property review committee, Jane is the chair, Mary and John also, and then Pat non-voting. Any questions about these changes about the depository or the official news organization? Board member nominations or chair committee nominations? If not, do we have a motion to refer?
Make a motion to approve all.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I do not believe we have any other business before this committee. If anybody does, please speak or forever hold your different procedure. I'll take if nobody has anything, I'll take a motion to adjourn the governance and audit committees. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then let's go right to the annual meeting. We'll call the order of the annual meeting, and you now have the election of the committee officers and leadership, the committee appointments. And so do we have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then we have the parish report, the members' attendance report, as we did with the other agencies before us. And then I believe if no one has any questions, then we'll take the motion to accept the parish report and the members' attendance report.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have the mission statement, performance measures, existing policies and procedures, including any proposed changes. Do we have a motion to accept these reports and policies?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the independent auditor report, as just presented a few moments ago. Assuming you have no other questions or comments from just less than 5 minutes ago, do we have a motion to accept this audit report?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I do not believe we have any other business for our annual meeting for our urban renewal agency. If not, then we will go to a motion to adjourn the annual meeting of the urban renewal agency.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. There we go.
Gene, you're probably okay.
All right.
Yeah,
I want
you're-
to thank
you're out.
everyone.
You're out.
Yeah, I want to make sure you accepted.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to thank everyone and
Gene, thank
thanks
you
for,
so much.
for engaging us and it was a pleasure working with everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your help.
Have fun between now and April 15th.
Yeah,
right.
Quiet time of year.
Yeah, if you see lights on at 69 South Street.
Right, don't
Actually,
panic.
the lights are out, it doesn't mean I'm not there, I'm
Yeah.
usually in the back.
If they're on, it doesn't mean you're welcome.
Right.
The door may be locked.
Right.
That's great. We will open now the March 24th monthly meeting of Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency. We have no CEO report this time.
Actually, I've got a 20-page report I want to read into the
You
record.
do,
if that's
huh?
okay.
Yeah. Slowly.
I'm teasing, I'm
Great.
teasing.
Under administrative reports, we have just the minutes of our regularly held February 8th, 2024. Has everybody seen the minutes? Have any questions or changes?
Motion to approve is presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Under financial report, we have 2 months ending February 29th. Update from Mark, please.
Nothing new.
Nothing new.
What a surprise.
Gotta love those reports. Do we have any questions about nothing new?
No, just for
Why not?
record, any adjustments that Gene gave, Mark will be presented, represented in the next report.
Correct.
Okay.
Great.
Which will be nothing new.
Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Payment of, to accept the independent audit report
For the third time.
for the third time now. Can we have the same motion and the
In
same
the second?
All in
Yeah,
favor?
right.
Done. Payment of bills schedule. Mark, anything?
Just 2 checks for Fitzgerald for a total of $144. That's it.
Right off cheap, Chuck.
But wait till you
Yeah,
get
he
next
doesn't
month.
have a lot of money, so.
That's great. Well, I just took another pen. Let's see, do we have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And I don't believe we have any other reports or any other business or an executive session. I would love to entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome. Goodbye. Have a good
Goodbye.
night.
And just to be safe, that motion also included